Okay, good morning, everyone. So we have Leo joining us, Leo Grandison, and he is the LNT program's lab technician, and he's going to share with us today what he does as our lab technician and a little bit about his path to being in this career, what he did before, and if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, or we can get to them at the end as well. There should be plenty of time for questions. But Leo, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone where you're from and what you do for Southwestern College? I know it's a lot of different things. And then I have some questions for you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to be here. I am from San Diego. I was born and raised here, but then I did leave I left for my undergrad career and lived a lot of my adult life in Santa Cruz and in Northern California. And I currently work as the lab tech for the LNT department and are familiar and know many of you. Um, and the two primary things that are part of my job are assisting with all of the classes and helping with setup and helping make them happen as smooth as possible. And it was taking care of the garden, which is currently a construction zone. So that's kind of in process. It's an exciting thing, but it's kind of crazy because things are all up in the air, of course, because of the pandemic, but at the same time, because of the construction. So
What was your, well, I will, yeah, what was your favorite part of working in the garden when you got to do that?
um, working with students in the garden and allowing like basically seeing students learning process, seeing students start to open up their interests into whatever field they were getting into, whether that was the gardening aspect of it or landscape, horticulture, botany, and seeing people get introduced and kind of see the beginning of a new path for people in that area. That's always exciting, and I love to be a part of that part.
Yeah, when we were teaching in person, Leo would join my classes and Mark's classes and bring his own perspective because me, Leo, and Mark all have different backgrounds. And as you've probably heard Mark and I say many times, there are 100 right ways to do everything in horticulture, and the three of us often do things differently. And it's really nice to be able to ask each other, why do you do it this way? Or how did you learn to do it that way? And it's nice to have everyone to share their perspectives.
Yes, yes.
Is your, I know it's probably harder for you to think of your favorite part of the job now because it's been kind of a crazy year.
Yeah.
But at this point, now that you're working from home largely and not quite able to go into the garden, could you come up with something that's your favorite part?
My favorite part is going in.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
actually going in. And yeah, I think yeah,
Yeah.
at this point it's still like, I'm excited to be able to go in um and see students and delivery and drop off of supplies and things like that. And also to see right now the development of how the whole construction process is happening. And to be able to be a part of kind of the preliminary, not preliminary, but at least before the construction happened and see what it takes, all of the different people that are involved on such a large project, and to see that kind of be able to be privy to the conversations and the meetings, to before and after of what it all takes. It's amazing. So there's a lot, and it seems also kind of a little bit of a shame to lose some of the stuff of the garden, but we're also gaining so much as well. So it's kind of bittersweet to see, but just to be able to be a part of that process was a huge learning experience.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that way too whenever we go in. I'm a little sad to see that things are missing, but I know that in the long run, it's going to be great for our program because we're going to have a larger garden that's more obvious to everyone else on campus. Because teaching in the biology department as well. For me, I get to hear how many students don't even know that we have this beautiful garden on campus.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Okay.
Professor Mullen, okay. I like from Liu, if as on the spot teaching of a certain plant in the garden, like for example, a student garden, and then student would ask, how do you grow this plant? How do you take care of this plant, like that? Does he do that?
Does Leo do that? Sorry, you froze at the beginning a little. You're asking if Leo teaches those types of plants? That types
Right, on the spot,
here?
in the garden. Like for example, when a student goes to the garden and see one plant, can Leo describe how this plant
Yeah.
taken care of, like that?
Yeah, like if you're ever in the garden or when we're back in the garden and then me, Leo, or Mark know about a lot of the plants, between the three of us, hopefully we know about the name of and how to grow one of the plants. But I'll be honest, before there were a lot of plants in there, and sometimes there were plants that none of us had known because they have been in that garden since the dawn of time. And so hopefully between the three of us, one of us knows the name of the plant and how to grow it. But sometimes we don't. But if you're ever there and you want to ask those questions, you certainly can.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely. Yeah, and my specialty or area is food plants and food production. So a lot of like the natives and some of those things I'm learning still as well.
Yeah, and mine's kind of the opposite, which is really great that we're all bringing something really different to the table. Is that before this, working as a professor, I was a field botanist. So I know more of the native plants and then have been learning as I go with a lot of the food plants. And that happened at first while I was teaching. And now I have a garden at my house as well. So it's kind of nice that we're all bringing something really different to the table.
Yeah.
Leo, do you want to talk about your path from even at the earliest age that you became interested in plants and maybe where you went to school, and you can take us kind of through your career path that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was quite a circuitous path. It was not linear. I didn't intend to become an organic farmer or horticulturalist. But my earliest, I think, introduction was my mother introducing me to plants. And we didn't have a large garden, but every once in a while we would grow some cherry tomatoes or something like that. But her main interest in plants was for the purpose of health. And she had some traumatic experiences with my older brother in terms of experimental drugs and his health in the very beginning of his life. And so it led her to do a lot of research into how to do alternative health. And so she basically become like, her lesson to me was like, your health is your wealth, and you can use plants as your medicine. Your food is your medicine. And she was, alternative, a little bit in like a hippie-ish, I guess, in those times. But she brought those things forward in my life as she raised me. We ate organic before it was a thing. I was gluten-free and didn't eat dairy and those type of things. And we always were mostly, well, not mostly, but we were plant-based, but we ate meat, but we learned about like healthy meat and healthy food overall. It was a way to empower us to be able to take care of ourselves, because I had allergies and things like that growing up as well. And so like, I was always sickly as well as a child with allergies and just not able to function. And we changed things in our diet to address those concerns. And she was able to, help me do that. And my grades went up and I was able to function better overall as an individual. So I took that forward. And then I went in, I went to UC Santa Cruz as my undergraduate, left San Diego for Santa Cruz at 18. And I didn't know what my major was going to be, but I was very involved in social justice movements there, and I was an organizer. we started an organization, well, a center on campus that still exists today, called the Engaging Education Outreach and Retention Center, that outreach to underserved communities, that brought students up and basically tried to retain students that were underserved and came from different communities that didn't have a lot of access. And so there was a lot of social justice movements happening. And I noticed in that time when I was working with people that we were not taking care of ourselves very well. And so who's going to take care of the people that are trying to do social change and push social justice? And I noticed we were eating badly, we were eating poorly, and we had poor habits. And so it brought me back to like my childhood on how to take care of ourselves. And seeing, I saw a bridge between social justice movements and the green movement and like sustainability movements. And I was like, wow, we really need to kind of bring these things together. So I went on to work as an advisor and an administrator at UC Santa Cruz. So I worked there for a long time. But I had a kind of, at a point I was like, it was I don't know, the culture of my work was unsustainable, is my opinion, is that we were burning ourselves out. And it was heart work, you know what I mean? It was for important causes, but we were not taking care of ourselves. So at a certain point, I said, I have to stop this and let me see what else I can do. And I think it was my motivation was the birth of my first child. And so we had Sahai, my daughter, but the pace didn't change. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, I can't have my daughter sleeping in my cubicle at 9 o'clock at night while I'm having meetings and things. So I kind of thought broadly about what I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to learn, I wanted to be able to contribute to people's lives through health. And I said, I want to learn how to grow healthy food. I want to know the ins and outs of how to grow food because it's really important. And I was, doing Google searches and looking for programs because I was like, I'm going to leave my job. My father was sick, and I was considering leaving my position and going home to make sure that I could take care of him. And before I did that, I wanted to like see what I was going to do next. And so I was searching and I was like, what is the best programs, like social justice oriented programs that I could learn how to grow healthy food? And it happened to be that there was a very famous program on campus at UC Santa Cruz at the university I was already working at. And so I applied and I got into that program. It's called the Center for CASPIS, Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems. And there is a long time, very established organic farm at UC Santa Cruz and an organic garden as well, where they train apprentices. There are about 40 apprentices, and you do a 6-month intensive on the farm job where you're working a lot, but you're learning all aspects of organic food production, and you're also taking classes and things about the food system. So I got in, and I was like, whoa, let me do this program, take a break. And I left my position. I went back to school and did this program. I had my daughter, and my wife was working full time, but I had my daughter, and I brought her with me because she was 1 year old. And I was like, I went and spoke to the teachers. I said, this is my situation. Can I have her with me while we're doing the work? And so I had her in my back, on a backpack on my back. And she learned, she helped us harvest things, and we figured it out because the professors and the teachers were open. They were open to me trying it out. And so I did the program, and that was transformative for me. And I didn't realize that, but I think there are a lot of people that have gone through that program that are, that are doing good things in agroecology and organic farming. And so, yeah, that was huge in terms of my training. And then after that, I did some more learning. I worked as a fruit tree pruning consultant in Santa Cruz, and did some worked with some homesteaders and things like that, just to continue learning. and then before I eventually moved back to San Diego. Yeah.
Very cool. And you've been with the LNT program for just a little over a year.
Almost. It's going to be 2 years in July.
You're right. So,
Crazy.
which has been wonderful to have you, but I'm sure it was the craziest transition because you came to this job and then we had a pandemic and then
Yeah.
had a garden renovation. So I wanted to ask you what a day on the job looks like, but it's every day's different, I'm sure.
But I can talk about that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and one other piece I wanted to add is that when I came back to San Diego, I worked with a food justice nonprofit, and I worked with community gardens, a couple of different community gardens in San Diego, and that was also really cool because it was just to be able to see it and apply what I learned was rewarding. But then I moved forward and got into this position, and so a day for me, before the pandemic, kind of a typical day, it kind of depends on what day of the week it is, but there were certain things that I did to prepare for each class or the classes that needed support. Like for example, floral would have floral deliveries, and I would receive deliveries and prepare the flowers for the floral department, get them all prepped up. And then yay, if you all took any floral classes in the last like 2 years, then I had my hands on your flowers. And I learned a lot just doing that, a lot in terms of flower identification. It was really cool. I was like, wow, I'm starting to know the flowers now. You know, that wasn't a priority for me, but actually in the program, it was cool. There is a flower aspect of the training that I did where we actually kind of had like a floral CSA. We would supply flowers to businesses across Santa Cruz and sell flowers. So we grew flowers as well. So I knew some already about it. There's that. I would definitely go in daily to work on the garden, check irrigation, mow regularly, the different lawns, depending on the season or where we were in the season, fertilize, harvest if there was anything to harvest. There was always some trimming to do to keep the paths clear, and trimming overgrowth, and then coordinating, like working with classes to prep stuff, get things out, whatever supplies we were going to need. For example, for construction, there was always a lot to prep, get the things ready that we were going to need in terms of what tools we would need. And then so like whenever we would do trainings on different saws and things like that, I'd pull out all the saws, get everything prepped up and ready so people could learn. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
What are some other questions I have for you? So what would you say has been your biggest accomplishment in your career? So it could be here at the LNT program, although I know in 2 years, it's hard to, especially with these crazy circumstances, but it can be in another position as well. So.
Let's see.
I mean, I would say for you that starting a whole group on your campus and having it still be running today is a pretty big accomplishment.
That's definitely up there. Yeah, I guess because that was kind of like prior to this career, in my previous career.
Yeah.
But that is huge. I mean, yeah, with a small group of dedicated people, we definitely created something that is really, I mean, it helps thousands of people. So far, it's helped thousands of people, changed the face of like the demographics of the campus, which is critical. And I go back every year, multiple times a year to do trainings, and I do trainings with the board. And it's interesting, because my career field changed a lot, but there's a lot of overlap, and I'm able to bring in different things when I go back with them and just like have cross pollination. But yeah, that's pretty much one of the largest accomplishments. Yeah, I guess in my career, I would say. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, starting a community garden when we had one garden already, and then I started another one and was able to build like a raised bed garden. That was pretty cool. It's intended to be a market garden, but the market didn't get going. Um, so a couple of things.
Nice. What would you say has been your biggest challenge?
Mm.
Again, in this career or a prior one?
I mean, the idea for me of balance is a very huge challenge. Work-life balance is huge, because if you get into work that is work that you're passionate about and you care a lot about, sometimes you're willing to extend and stretch more than may be sustainable for you. For me, I'm speaking from the I. Um, and that stretch, if it's extended, it can be unhealthy. And so balancing family life, balancing, as transitions happen in your life, and being able to maintain a good work-life balance is really a good skill to have and learn and invest in. So I have two children. So my wife and we have two children, and balancing their education and health and all of those things with the passionate work that I do, the work that I have passion for, is a good thing. It's a good challenge to have.
And I think too, especially in our society, you have to go a little bit against the grain if you want to prioritize those things, because it's almost expected of all of us to just dedicate our lives to our work. And when you love your work, it's really easy to do that. And it's really easy to forget about, how important it is to take time to sometimes do nothing. It's okay.
Right. Yes.
That's what I've been telling myself this last year,
Yeah.
it's okay to do nothing sometimes.
Right. And sometimes doing nothing is doing something. Like,
right.
If in the plant world you think about, oh, nothing's happening, but things are happening before you see what's happening. Like before plants come out of dormancy, you have a month or 2 weeks before there's a lot of root activity and you see nothing on the surface. So like nothing is something. Yeah. I'm in the sandwich generation as well. So my father is elderly, and trying to make sure that he is taken care of and okay is a responsibility that I feel passionate about. And I also have young children, and so you get stretched, and just and making sure you're taking care of everything on the job as well, is it's a balancing act. So yeah.
What has been your favorite horticulture or plant science class that you've ever taken?
I've ever taken.
Or it could be even a workshop, or it doesn't have to be a class at school, I guess. But
my favorite, that's a hard one because I've taken so many good ones. I have to say, your 100 class is awesome. I enjoyed the 100 class.
You say that.
No, just because like being introduced to just more a broader spectrum of things, like the old school video that we watched, that was so cool as well.
The sex lives of plants.
Yeah, I was like, what? That's crazy. So it just that was very cool. I've taken a aquaponics track. I did an aquaponics training in Florida. I did an intensive there for a couple weeks, and that was really amazing and interesting to learn basically the ins and outs of creating an aquaponics like system and cycle. That was really fascinating. Let's see. I go to a couple of different conferences,
Yes.
and one of them is called Bugs. It's Black Urban Gardeners and Farmers, and they always have really good, interesting workshops on like agroecology and regenerative ag and food justice. And so I always get really good information and motivated by the workshops that I attend there. Like with Leah Penniman, and she's she has a farm in New York, upstate, but she's kind of a well-known author, young as well. And then my permaculture training was fascinating as well. So I did permaculture design course, and that in terms of the forming the way that I look at things was very important for me, and it changed a lot of the way that I actually look at things as connected, everything in a way, and basically the laws of nature that connect us. That was fascinating as well. So there's been several good ones that are top runners in my experience. Yeah.
Thank you. So what kind of plants do you have at home?
I have a lot of plants. um, Again, that balance thing that I mentioned before is like, oh my goodness.
So
well,
I was gonna ask, can I ask Holly, can you give us top 5 plants that you should plant if you had a garden?
That you
I think
should
that's kind of,
plant?
that you think we should plant. That's gonna be helpful.
I think that like that should be reflected by your lifestyle. And what your lifestyle is should depend on, and what your intention is should determine what you grow, I feel like. So
I feel like if you have edibles and
mhm.
anything that could be used,
Mm.
I don't want to say medicinal because we shouldn't make that recommendation, but like, I don't know,
Well,
maybe it's the wrong question.
I mean, yes, I'm not a doctor and I don't prescribe anything, but I do think a lot, if you can have like a patio garden, it's doable and healthy for you to have a patio garden. You can grow a lot of things. You can grow, and especially in this climate, you can grow a lot of things. I have it, well, and I recommend, like, say you have a lifestyle that you like already have a full-time job and you're not going to be able to take a lot of time gardening. I feel like you should do a lot of perennials. Like instead of doing annual crops that I'll have to prep soil for a lot and do that, I try to have some perennials that I grow. So I have some perennial greens, some tree collards that I grow, and and because they're climate appropriate here, they're an African variety of I think like a Kenyan variety of tree collards. They do well in the heat, and I mean they don't do bad in the heat. They survive the heat well, and they do well in the cold.
And they just keep giving throughout the year.
And they keep giving. They just keep giving. They don't die. They keep giving as long as I water them appropriately. We always have greens to eat at my house, and extra I need to give them away. I have maybe 5 plants of those, 5 or 6 or something like that, and that's plenty for my family.
Collards are also really beautiful and can make a really good part of the landscape too, Carlos.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Got a couple herbs and I have different herbs. I have a lot of fruit trees. I like fruit trees and I like fruit, so it's hard for me, and people just keep giving me their trees that they're not working with, like my neighbors and stuff. So my neighbors were getting rid of their banana grove, and I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And as I can I have these? They were about to put them in the trash, and they said, yeah, we never got bananas from them. And I was like, well, you gotta water them a lot. And so I got bananas going, and then of course I've taken cuttings and propagated from the banana varieties that we had in the garden. So now I have all these different banana varieties that I'm trying to, I'm not committed in putting them into the ground yet, so I still have a lot of pots because I want to like
your bananas are in containers.
Well, the ones that I have them in ground, but the ones that I propagated from the garden,
got it.
are still in pots. So I have to find a space to dedicate for them and make sure.
I have space. I'm starting to grow myself.
Nice. All right.
Yes. So I'm looking for banana plants.
Oh man. Nice. Okay. Well, if I have extra, then I will send them your way.
Thank you.
I have apricots. And then since I've been working here and been in San Diego as well, I took dragon fruit cuttings and started dragon fruits, but I haven't properly trellised them, so I got work to do. But I love the dragon fruits that I've been witness to. Is that a hand up?
Madeline, you have a question? You are muted.
Oh, we can't.
Can you unmute yourself? There we
Yeah,
go.
okay.
There you go.
I have a question because I have also some dragon plants, but I would like to find out from Mr. Grandison how to grow them and let them bear more fruits.
Which fruit? I missed what fruit you were talking about.
Dragon fruit.
Dragon plant?
Oh, with dragon fruits? Yes,
Yeah.
I'm still, I mean, I take care of the dragon fruits in the garden, but they were already well established. So I'm still learning myself, but I know that just from in my cursory research, trellising them appropriately. And I'm learning because every plant like has a culture that they're associated with. And so in my community gardening experience, I've seen that a lot of Asian cultures and how they've trellised the dragon fruits
Right.
in a specific way, but I'm still learning myself about that. And so I think the trellis is the critical aspect of it. And then I know that they enjoy humidity, like tropical humidity. So water actually on the plant seems to be good for them, not just in the soil. Like a lot of times you're told not to water on the plant, you water the soil where the roots are. But dragon fruit, I think because of where they come from, that they enjoy humidity. So putting water on them seems to work well.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I have some dragon fruit as well, and I haven't gotten any fruit yet, but they're new to me. And I've heard from other people, they take a little while to acclimate to their new environments. And so when you first transplant them, that you may not get fruit for a little while, but that can be true for a lot of fruit trees. They don't bear fruit their first year.
Yeah.
So those
Verse
are
3, you probably don't want to even take fruit if it will give you fruit. A lot of fruit trees like stone fruits and stuff, like like in my training, like if year 2, year 3, sometimes if you want more growth for the tree, you take off all the buds and sacrifice the fruit for more growth, and then you'll have a stronger plant.
right. Yeah. My last question to you, and then we'll open it up to some other class questions, would be, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to someone who was looking to be in this field, in any field of horticulture, or maybe even specifically someone who wanted to be a lab technician or work in a horticulture program at a college?
Nice. Yes. I'd say like have a broad experience, like, so explore different interests that are related to the field. I feel like my education, because it was so kind of all over the place, it's brought me to a really good place where I'm not tied into one way of thinking about certain things, because you'll see people who are trained in one area have a specific approach, and they don't see kind of some of the other ways to go about doing or approaching this field, which is so broad. So I feel like a broad education is beneficial, so that you can see things from different perspectives, and that's kind of like life advice. But there's people like permaculturalists who will come at it from a very specific approach, and then there will be people who are like environmental scientists who are trained as environmental scientists, and it will be a completely different approach, and all related. But to kind of be able to bring those different things together is really, I think, beneficial.
Sure. Like maybe a good example of that too is someone who wants to plant plants in their yard, and if they're focusing on only landscape ornamental plants, they're missing out on a big group of plants, of native plants that support pollinators, or even maybe food plants that can be used in an ornamental garden. So you're able to consider all of the aspects of what makes a good garden or what makes good plant choices, the more you know about a lot of different types of growing.
Yeah, agreed.
We have a question from Forrest. With the expansion of the LNT program, will there be a need for more assistance or people helping in the garden?
I imagine so, because we have a lot of cool ideas, and cool plans. And so I imagine it will be expanding slowly and intentionally, but there are different aspects that, that we have where I'm excited to hear about. Mark has been plotting and planning for a while, and to see some of these things coming to fruition is inspiring. As in my participation with Mark and with this process, we were able to identify a part of the garden that will be an urban farm, which I'm extremely excited about. So we'll have a specific section where we'll be able to talk about and grow food. And so, like, to me, in my training, there's always, you can do so much with a lot of hands, like many hands make light work. So I was part of a crew, and when I learned farming, I was a part of a person of 40 people running a whole farm rather than just like 1 or 2 people. So when you have not an abundance, but you have a good amount of labor available, you can get so much done, and it's less stressful. It has to be managed, but I see it that way. I see that people will be able to learn through doing. And so if you're interested in growing crops and learning organic farming techniques, like we're going to have an opportunity for that. And we're going to need people. We're going to need people that are available and willing to learn in that area. So I think we've kind of even started with the beginnings of the organic farming class, organic gardening class, which I think is kind of preliminary towards that. We'll have some really cool greenhouses that are dedicated to aquaponics. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot more opportunity when the time comes. So we have to be patient, but there will be more opportunity.
Yeah, and things with schools in general tend to take a lot of time to develop, because it's not like me and Leo, Mark can get together and say, we want to do this. It has to go through a lot of different levels of approval. So I agree. There will be many opportunities, but we don't know when quite yet.
Yes.
Leo, is there anything else you wanted to add before I allow some
I have another question.
questions?
I have another question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Grandison, you're talking about social justice. Can you elaborate that further related to the plants?
Absolutely. So I consider myself like somebody who in the field of food justice, and social justice in general. The idea is to work towards a more equitable society where resources are better distributed and there is more equal access to resources. Whether we're talking about systemic racism with all of the things that are happening right now in our society, but that translates into a lot of different things. And one thing that is kind of a popular movement right now as well is called food justice. And food justice is essentially fighting and advocating for a more equitable access to fresh, healthy, and culturally specific food. So because we have a food system that is inequitable. So it is tied to like your socioeconomic status, where you live and how much money you make can determine what type of food you have access to. And that then can determine like your life expectancy and the quality of your life. So I know you asked specifically about social justice, but I think it's in like what I'm doing, what I want to do is tie that into like food
doing
justice.
the right thing.
Yes, good. So that's kind of like what excites me. And so being able to like basically learn this knowledge and spread this knowledge, knowing that actually this is something specific to like our country that is man-made, but like our cultures and various cultures across the world have this knowledge. Like it's really interesting because I did a permaculture training, right? And a permaculture was like basically the brainchild idea of like 2 Australian guys, right? But what they did was really bring in and summarize a lot of indigenous knowledge about plants and about natural systems and the way that the earth works. And a lot of our cultures were already tied into that knowledge. And so it's kind of like it's new, but it's not new. It's old. It's old knowledge that, various cultures do different things and grow different foods, but have relationships with the earth and with plants in different ways. So like me learning those type of things and honoring those things, those different skill sets and knowledges, and basically utilizing that also to kind of help people have better lives is really important, because we know that a lot of the diseases and things that people are passing of are preventable. And a lot of that is through diet and through the food that you have. It's like when I talk to my children, it's like, if you don't put good gas in your car's not going to function very well. It's going to not last long. So if you don't give yourself good fuel, like as a human, as a person, if you're not eating things that are good for you, it's your body as your vehicle is not going to function as well.
Yeah, thank you. I like your idea of social justice in comparison with the other people right now. And another thing, okay, do you think you have some sort of idea where you can bring in at-risk youth to do what you're doing?
Yes, that's so critical. Like one of the things that I did before I moved back down here is I worked for a nonprofit called Food What, and it was basically a life skills program that we taught life skills to middle age and high school age youth, but our basis was the farm. So we weren't training to be like young farmers. We were basically utilizing the farm as a medium to teach life skills and lessons, and they ended up learning, farming skills as well, and having access to good food and produce. But yes, I would love to be able to do that, and all in due time. But that's an area that I love. And sometimes like I partner with some like an independent school here in San Diego and I want to kind of like build with them and consult with them so that, and community gardens as well. But I would love to be able to do that, whatever mechanism we can do that, if it's possible through Southwestern Community College, like through LNT at some point. That would be amazing. It's definitely there and on my mind, but when it's appropriate.
I like to work with you if you're going to start that, because I've been a volunteer with the Pan-Asian community.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm signing you up.
Does anyone else have any questions for Leo? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
I have one related to the garden.
Oh,
I know the last bunch of bananas were harvested. Is the grove putting on new blossoms, new bananas?
Not new that I've seen, because the irrigation was cut, and so
yes.
yeah, so it's not. And they've pretty much, most of the grove is down, is cut down. There's a couple of stands still up, and there's one that has a bunch on it, but I don't think the bunch is going to get mature enough because it's not getting watered.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember Kim out there watering it, and how well it responded to that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good update. I wish I could have, harvested some of the babies and grown them, but I just couldn't dig the soil there. It was just too much for me to dig.
Yeah.
So is that going to happen? Are they going to be dug up or just mowed down, or?
Well, we had our opportunity and I got some out, but not
anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
well,
I'm sure we'll have more.
So yeah, I'm available to grow more bananas. I've got the property now. So
okay.
Yeah, keep me in mind.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah. I just want to say thanks for coming and talk to us, man. Your story is truly inspirational, and I feel like it really resonates with me. I took care of my son while going to school. My wife worked full time. I have
Yes.
my second kid on the way.
Hey.
I understand what you say when you like want to make a difference. Like you were looking for a career path, and I worked for 10 years and it sucked. I worked in a prison. I was doing the opposite of what I wanted to do, you know?
Mm,
So I feel like this aspect that you talked about, your really transitional point. Um, do you know of something in San Diego that maybe would be equivalent to like what you went through in some like a program, a community garden, or even maybe the
mhm,
horticulture science at Southwestern that would be maybe a more intensive transformational type program?
mhm,
Something that's short term, you learn a lot.
mhm. A couple of things come to mind. Um, I do think that like you can piece a really cool education together through the classes that are offered through you know, I work there. I'm not trying to give a commercial with anything, but sometimes I wish I learned some of the things that are being taught as well. So there's value there. Um, I know that they were trying to recreate a program that was similar to the CASFIS training um, at Wild Willow, which I believe is not, I'm not sure if it's in existence anymore, but they were
Yeah, it
trying
is.
it
It
is.
is. Yes.
So they were trying to create a training program, which might be similar, especially if you're interested in food crops and food justice. And then so there was that, and then I know that there's another interesting farm called Solidarity Farm, which does regenerative ag, I believe, and I think it's on native land in up in East County in the mountains. I haven't been there yet, but I can't remember what group it's the land is on, but I believe it's native land.
Is it the
But-
conejo? Conejo, the rabbit? Does that sound familiar?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
see?
don't know.
Okay.
No, but it's called Solidarity Farm though.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
will, in the chat, I will drop the link for it's the School of Regenerative Agriculture at Wild Willow. And they, I believe we're still doing classes as of recently. So
Mhm.
I'll put that in the chat for everyone if they're interested.
Yes.
Yeah, they're looking for interns. They have a position open for a farm manager now, I think.
Oh, wow.
Wild Willow does, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think, doesn't Cal Poly have a regenerative environments program? I
Mm.
was looking at that
I
a
would
couple years
imagine.
ago.
Uh-huh.
Michael, that farm school at Wild Willow is an 8-week long course, and it's yeah, so that could be interesting to you.
Yes. Is it? Do we know? Is it hands-on? Like, are you?
You're
on the
there in
farm?
person.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they enforce social distancing and masks, but you do get to be in person, which is nice. And I think
Yeah.
that their next program, they canceled some over the summer, but their next one, they do have one this summer coming up.
Mhm.
And they'll have one in the fall, but I don't believe the dates are announced for that. But I do know that they announced I accidentally only sent that to one person, sorry. They did
Mhm.
announce the dates for the summer, and I believe it starts in June, the beginning of June. So that's in the link.
Nice. Another cool like farm that I visited was Coastal Roots, I think it's called, up in Encinitas. In terms of like the practice, I'm not sure what they offer in terms of any training. If they do offer training, it'd probably be it's a cool, at least hands-on, like where you can actually see how to do some farming, some organic farming.
There's also Olivewood Gardens in National City,
Hmm.
and they have a cool program where they teach people to grow food and then how to cook healthy meals with it as well. And I know a lot of their programs are focused on some maybe lower income communities
Mhm.
as well. And Carla actually just finished her internship there and said that she had a great experience. Carla, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Nice.
Yeah, so Olivewood is a nonprofit garden, like a learning community in National City. And it was donated by the Walton family, like family who owns Walmart, in the 70s. to the city with the promise of it staying as a garden learning center.
Really?
So now what they do is they partner with schools, public schools for, I believe, elementary and high school, where they do they do field trips and they teach the kids how to do organic farming and plant their own plants, and also as well as cook their own food, or cook the edibles that they planted. And also they teach their parents as well too. And every Thursdays, we do a community plant stand to give out produce to National City, to the people who lives in National City. So, which is great.
That's awesome.
I'm curious, what was your internship for?
So it's for garden assistant. So it's basically taking care of the garden and planting and everything. If you take an LNT 100, so everything that we learned in LNT 100, basically you do it hands-on there more full time. It's about, I would say, 9 acres. So
Nice.
it's pretty good size.
Who's the garden manager, the farm manager there now?
Leonard is his name. I forgot his last name.
Hey.
All Leonard and farm managers.
Right.
Yeah. Leonard.
Nice.
Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you for being here, Leo. Sorry about the confusion with the time.
No problem.
But if anyone does have questions that come up after, you can email me and I can forward them to Leo, or you could email Leo. It might be easier if you email them to me and I can compile them all in one list for Leo. Or if you'd like to email him yourself, maybe Leo, you can write your email for them in the chat.
Sure.
And otherwise, we have some other speakers coming up this week. We have one more today at 1 p.m. It's the same Zoom link for all of the guest speakers. Again, I've recorded this meeting. I'll record all of the meetings that we have, and I'll send them to everyone as well. And hopefully we will get to see some of you in person in the fall. Yeah, we hope that too. But yeah, if you don't have any
Can't wait.
questions, then you're free to sign off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
See
so
you at
much.
1 o'clock.
All the information.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you,
I
Leo.
appreciate